Hello and welcome to our podcast, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about something very important and useful business English. If you're learning English to help with your job or your career, this podcast is for you, right, Max?
Absolutely. Emma, learning English for business can open up a lot of doors. It's not just about knowing English, it's about feeling comfortable and confident using it in a work setting. And don't worry, we'll keep it simple and fun for everyone listening.
Yes, and remember, if you're just starting out or feel a little unsure, that's totally okay. We'll take things step by step. So, let's start with the basics. Why is business English different from regular English?
Good question. Emma, business English is a bit more formal than the English we use with friends or family. You might use polite phrases, specific vocabulary, and sometimes a different tone. But it's not something to stress over. Think of it like wearing different clothes for different events. In business, we want to sound clear and respectful.
Exactly, and that's why learning business English is important. So, let's dive into some of these key elements that can make a difference in your workplace. One important area is introductions. When you meet someone in a business setting, how you introduce yourself can set the tone for your relationship.
Right, Emma, and the good thing is, it's quite simple. When you're meeting someone, start by saying, "Hello, my name is," and then your name. You can also add your job title if it's appropriate. For example, "Hello, my name is Max, and I'm a marketing manager."
And if you're meeting someone for the first time, you might say, "Nice to meet you." It's a small phrase, but it shows respect and interest in the other person. Little phrases like this make a big difference in business English.
Totally, and it's great for building connections. Another useful phrase is "How can I help you?" or "What can I do for you?" It's polite, helpful, and shows you're ready to listen. Listening is a big part of business English.
Exactly, Max. And that brings us to questions. Asking clear and polite questions is so important in business. For example, instead of saying "what?" if you didn't understand something, you could say, "Could you repeat that, please?" Or "Could you explain that a bit more?"
Yes, Emma, those little words "I'll please" and "could you" really make your English sound polite and professional. And here's another one. Thank you. Don't forget to say it. Thanking someone shows that you value what they've done or said, and it's very important in business.
Absolutely, Max. And it's not just about saying thank you to be polite. It actually helps build stronger relationships in the workplace. Imagine someone gives you a report, and you just take it without saying anything. They might think you didn't even care. But if you say, "Thank you for the report," it shows you appreciate their effort.
Exactly, and speaking of reports, let's talk a bit about business emails. A lot of business communication is done through emails. And there are a few things to keep in mind to make your emails sound professional and polite.
Good idea, Max. For example, instead of starting an email with just "Hi," you can say, "Dear Mr. Smith" if it's formal, or "Hello, Sarah" if it's a bit more casual but still polite. Then start your email with a short greeting like, "I hope you're well," or "I hope you're having a good day."
Yes, and always remember to close your emails politely, too. You can say "best regards," "kind regards," or even just "thanks" at the end. It's a small detail, but it makes your email sound professional.
Definitely, and Max, we should also talk about presentations. In many jobs, you might need to talk in front of a group. It could be a team meeting, or maybe you're presenting an idea. This can be scary, but with a few tips, it's easier than it seems.
True. Emma, when you start a presentation, always introduce yourself first. You can say something like, "Good morning, everyone. My name is Max, and today I'll be talking about," then make eye contact with the audience. Even if you're nervous, try to look at people. It helps make a connection.
Yes, and a simple way to keep the audience interested is to use short, clear sentences. Avoid using too many technical words unless everyone understands them. And don't forget to smile. It helps you look confident and makes people more likely to listen.
Exactly, and during the presentation, try asking the audience questions like, "Does that make sense?" Or any questions so far. This helps you connect with them and shows you care about their understanding.
Great points, Max. We've covered a lot today, but these are just the basics. Just remember, the key to business English is to be polite, clear, and respectful. And with practice, you'll feel more comfortable using it at work.
All right, let's keep going with more tips on mastering English for business. So far, we've talked about introductions, polite questions, emails, and even presentations. Now, let's dive deeper into meetings. In the workplace, meetings are a big part of communicating with your team, so knowing how to speak up in meetings is very important.
Yes, Max, meetings can be tricky, especially if you feel a bit shy or worried about making mistakes. But remember, everyone makes mistakes sometimes, even native speakers. In meetings, it's more about being clear and respectful. Let's start with some good phrases you can use to express your ideas or opinions.
That's right, Emma. If you want to share your opinion, you could start by saying, "In my opinion," or "I believe that." For example, "In my opinion, we should focus more on marketing this month," or "I believe that this project could bring us new clients." Simple and direct, but polite.
Good examples, Max. And if you agree with someone, it's also nice to show it. You could say, "I agree with you," or "I think you're right." Or if you want to add your own point, try saying, "I agree, and I'd like to add that this way." You show support, but also share more ideas.
Yes, and sometimes you might disagree, which is okay too. The key is to do it politely. For example, instead of saying, "No, that's wrong," you could say, "I see your point, but I have a different perspective," or "I understand, but I think we might also consider." It sounds softer and shows respect.
Exactly, disagreeing politely is a great skill to have in business English. It's all about respect and finding a way to share your thoughts without sounding too strong. And Max, don't forget about asking questions in meetings. Asking questions can show that you're interested and paying attention.
Absolutely, Emma. Asking questions like, "Could you explain that in more detail?" Or "What do you mean by that?" can be very helpful, especially if you didn't understand something. And if you need more time to think, you could say, "Let me think about that for a moment," or "I'll need some time to consider that."
Yes, that's a good point, Max. And meetings also often include making suggestions. If you want to share an idea, try saying, "I'd like to suggest," or "What if we try?" For example, "I'd like to suggest we focus on social media," or "What if we try a different approach for this campaign?"
Nice suggestions, Emma, and if someone makes a suggestion, it's polite to respond, even if you don't have a strong opinion. You could say, "That's an interesting idea," or "I think that could work." Even small responses show that you're listening and engaged.
Yes, small responses like that are a good habit. And when the meeting ends, there's often a wrap-up or summary. The person leading the meeting might ask, "Are there any final questions?" or "Does anyone have anything else to add?" These are cues that the meeting is finishing, so it's a good time to speak up if you have any last points.
Exactly, Emma, and if you're not leading the meeting, you can still thank everyone at the end by saying, "Thank you for a great meeting," or "Thanks, everyone." It shows respect and appreciation for everyone's time.
Yes, saying thank you is always a nice way to end things politely. And speaking of polite language, let's move on to networking. In business, making connections is important, whether it's at events, on the phone, or through emails. Knowing some networking language can really help you connect with others.
Good idea, Emma. So, networking is like meeting people to build professional relationships. When you meet someone, a nice way to start is, "Hi, I'm Max, it's nice to meet you." Or, "Hello, I'm Emma and I work in project management." A simple introduction with a bit about what you do.
Yes, exactly. And once you're talking, you can ask questions to show interest in the other person. For example, what do you do? Or how did you get started in this field? People enjoy talking about their work, and these questions help start a good conversation.
Absolutely. And a good follow-up question could be, what do you enjoy most about your job? Or what's been a big challenge for you recently? It shows you're interested and want to know more about their experience.
Yes, and if you're at a networking event, try to keep things positive and professional. For example, you can say, I really admire your company, or I've heard great things about the work you do. Compliments help create a friendly atmosphere.
Great tip, Emma, and after meeting someone, it's good to follow up later. For example, you could send a quick email like, Hi, it was great meeting you. I'd love to stay in touch. Keeping connections alive is a big part of networking.
Exactly, Max. And speaking of emails, it's also common to talk about setting up meetings or calls. If you want to schedule something, you could say, would you be available for a meeting? Or I'd love to schedule a time to chat, and always add a polite please or thank you.
Right, Emma. Another useful phrase for scheduling is, when would be a good time for you? Or does next week work for you? It shows flexibility and respect for the other person's time.
Great tips, Max. Let's also talk about handling phone calls in English. Phone calls can be challenging, especially if it's hard to understand the person on the other line. But there are a few tricks that can help.
Good point, Emma. A helpful way to start a business phone call is with a polite introduction. For example, hello, this is Max speaking, or good morning, this is Emma, how can I help you? It sounds professional and clear.
Yes, and if you didn't catch something they said, don't be afraid to ask them to repeat. You can say, I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please? Or could you say that a bit slower, please? They'll understand and usually won't mind repeating.
That's right, Emma, and if you need to put the caller on hold, you can say, could you hold for a moment, please? Or if you need to transfer the call to someone else, you could say, let me transfer you to the right person. These phrases help you sound professional on the phone.
Exactly, and if you're ending the call, a polite way to wrap up is, thank you for calling. Have a nice day, or thanks for your time. Take care. Small phrases like this leave a good impression.
Great, Emma. We've gone through so many important phrases today: how to speak up in meetings, networking, making suggestions, and even handling phone calls. These skills really help you sound professional and confident in business English.
So let's continue with more tips for mastering business English. We've covered a lot so far, but there's still more to discuss to help you feel confident and professional at work. Let's start this part by talking about writing business reports and proposals. Writing well in business English can be just as important as speaking well, right, Max?
Absolutely, Emma. Writing reports and proposals is a big part of many jobs, especially if you need to share ideas, track progress, or recommend actions to your team or clients. The key to writing these documents is clarity, keeping it simple and direct. No one wants to read long, confusing sentences.
Exactly, and using simple language doesn't mean it's less professional. In fact, the simpler and clearer you are, the more professional it sounds. For example, instead of saying, we are endeavoring to achieve optimal results, you could say, we are working to get the best results. It's shorter and easier to understand.
Good point, Emma. Also, when you're writing a report or proposal, it's helpful to organize it well. Start with a clear introduction that explains the purpose. For example, this report shows the results of our marketing campaign. Then, use headings to separate different sections. This makes it easy for people to read quickly.
Yes, structure is so important. After the introduction, you can add a background section if you need to explain why you're writing the report or proposal. Then, you can go into the main points, with each point in a new section or paragraph.
Exactly, and after presenting your main points, it's a good idea to add a conclusion or recommendation section where you summarize your key points and suggest the next steps. For example, based on these findings, I recommend that we continue with the campaign for another month.
Great tips, Max. And let's not forget about using polite language in writing, just like we do in speaking. For example, when making a suggestion in a report, you might say, "I suggest we consider," or "It may be beneficial to." It sounds polite but confident.
Yes, and even in emails or reports, phrases like "thank you for your time" or "I appreciate your attention to this matter" can make a big difference. It shows that you respect the reader's time and are grateful for their attention.
Absolutely, Max. Another big part of business English is customer service language. If you work with clients or customers, knowing how to communicate with them in a polite and helpful way is so important.
Definitely, customer service is all about making people feel heard and valued. For example, if a customer has a problem, you could say, "I understand your concern and I'm here to help," or "Thank you for bringing this to our attention. Let's see how we can solve it."
Yes, using phrases like that can really make the customer feel important. And if you need to apologize, a simple "I'm sorry for the inconvenience" is polite and professional. It shows empathy without making you sound defensive.
Exactly, and if a customer is asking for something specific, you could respond with, "Let me check that for you," or "I'll do my best to assist." These responses are polite and show that you're willing to help.
Those are great phrases, Max, and remember, keeping calm and polite is key, even if a customer is upset. Sometimes people just want to be heard, so listening is just as important as responding.
Yes, Emma, and when it's time to end a conversation with a customer, you could say, "Thank you for choosing our company," or "Please don't hesitate to reach out if you need more help." This keeps the relationship positive and leaves a good impression.
Absolutely. And while we're talking about communication, we should mention writing job applications and CVs. Many people learning business English are also looking for new job opportunities, so knowing how to write a good CV and cover letter is important.
Good idea, Emma. Writing a CV or resume in English doesn't have to be complicated. Start with your name and contact information at the top, and then add sections like work experience, education, and skills. Keep it clear and easy to read.
Yes, and when listing your work experience, try to use action words like managed, organized, developed, or achieved. For example, instead of writing, "I was responsible for projects," you could say "managed multiple projects successfully." It sounds more confident and professional.
Exactly, Emma, and for the cover letter, keep it polite and focused. Start by saying, "Dear hiring manager," if you don't know their name, and then introduce yourself and explain why you're interested in the job. For example, "I'm writing to apply for the position of because I am passionate about."
Yes, and it's also a good idea to mention specific skills or experiences that match the job. For example, "I have experience in project management and enjoy working in a team." This shows the company that you're a good fit.
And at the end of the cover letter, you can say something like, "Thank you for considering my application. I look forward to the opportunity to discuss my qualifications," polite and to the point.
Perfect. And finally, let's talk a bit about business culture, understanding how people communicate and behave in different business environments. Knowing a bit about culture can help you feel more comfortable and avoid misunderstandings.
Good idea, Emma. For example, in many English-speaking countries, it's common to start meetings or conversations with a bit of small talk, maybe talking about the weather or asking how the weekend was. It's a way to build connections before starting on business topics.
Yes, small talk is important, even if it feels a bit strange at first. And in some cultures, people value direct communication, while in others, people are more indirect. For example, in some places, saying no directly might feel rude, so people use phrases like, "I'm not sure that would work."
That's a great point, Emma, and something else to keep in mind is personal space. In some places, people stand close when they talk, in others, they keep more distance. Understanding these differences can help you feel more comfortable when talking to people from different backgrounds.
Absolutely, Max. And when it comes to dressing for work, every business has its own dress code. In some offices, it's formal, with suits and ties, while in others, it might be more casual. Observing how others dress can help you understand what's appropriate.
Yes, and remember, each workplace is unique. If you're unsure about anything, whether it's language, culture, or behavior, don't hesitate to ask politely. Most people will appreciate your effort to learn and understand.
That's a great reminder, Max. And speaking of that, remember that business English, just like any skill, takes time and practice. Don't be too hard on yourself. Little by little, you'll feel more confident.
Exactly, Emma. Every time you practice even small things like polite phrases or writing a simple email, you're improving. So keep going and celebrate your progress, even the small steps.
And with that, we've covered a lot of ground in this podcast. We hope these tips help you feel more prepared and confident to use English in business settings. Remember, it's all about being clear, polite, and respectful.
Yes, and thank you all so much for joining us on this journey. If you found this helpful, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and share it with your family and friends who might also be learning English. We're excited to bring you more tips and guidance to help you master English.
Goodbye, everyone, and remember, with practice and patience, you're going to do great. Keep working on your English, and we'll see you next time.